It seems that most of us feel that our lives have become too difficult when we lose something really important to us. However, often the things we value are lost in the countless trivial things of life. Many people I meet in therapy complain, "I long for a simple life." But when asked why their lives have become so complicated, the response is often silence at first, followed by squinting into the distance, as if they were looking through a window covered with dust. Many subsequent therapy sessions are spent cleaning those windows, only to find that the surrounding view may not actually be as pleasing to the eye as we expected. It can be discouraging to realize that the complexity and chaos we see when we look around us is of our own making. But who knows, those preset psychological traps not only make us doubt, but also crave something we already possess. So before wishing or longing for something, we should at least thoroughly re-evaluate the problem to see if it is really true or not. From the moment I started coming up with ideas for this topic, the thing I focused on the most was the way of thinking. Although there are many opinions that thinking is not directly related to simplifying our furniture and lives, but in fact, almost every study and experience proves one thing: if we want to change any behavior or habit effectively, long-term and positive, we need to have the right mindset first. Whether we possess an open thinking system, a closed thinking system, or any other thinking system, I believe that there will always be different ways to make this complicated life easier. Lately, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about lateral thinking. Although this type of thinking has been applied to many aspects of life, but there is very little literature that puts this way of thinking in the same place as simplicity. As I see it, the most indispensable thing in this society is complexity, both in life and human thinking. Even the people we consider the simplest, with their experiences and lessons in life, I guess before they come up with some neat conclusion or question, they will still take actions such as sifting and analyzing these options in their mind before coming to such a conclusion. Maybe the style they display before us makes us mistakenly think that they are a person with a simple way of thinking, but whether or not it is true, it is still quite early to conclude. But it is also because of such a narrow perception of the so-called simplicity that has led to the assumption that people who possess multidimensional thinking systems are usually complex and intelligent. Unfortunately, this complexity has been legitimized under their definition, leading to the fact that if we do not have a broader view, we can very well evaluate multidimensional thinking as the downside of simplicity. The multidimensional thinking we often refer to is the way we think and evaluate a certain thing or phenomenon from many angles, many different streams of thinking, to see all its impacts in both theory and social reality, right or wrong, beautiful or ugly, good or bad. From there, we can use our abilities to judge the problem most objectively and thoroughly. Because the activity of multidimensionality is branching and thinking, its diagram cannot be just a one-way straight line. It is the exact opposite of the image of the idea of simplicity. Therefore, There are always debates between those who possess multidimensional thinking and those who are confused about the meaning of simplicity. They have not seen that multidimensional thinking is one of the means to make our simple lifestyle more colorful. So if they still don't understand simplicity properly, they are most likely limiting themselves to a closed thinking system that makes them unable to accept people with multidimensional thinking like us. When talking about simplicity, I guess there will probably be a small group of people who are confused about the meaning behind the two concepts of minimalism and simplicity. While minimalism tends towards sophisticated, neat, and simple layouts in a mainstream Danish design style, simplicity is more directed towards our spiritual life. However, there is always interference and a close connection between them. In the minimalist lifestyle, there is the spiritual power of simplicity, and conversely, simplicity always contains a high probability of choosing to live in a minimalist style. That's why when someone inspired by the positive meaning behind this lifestyle begins to take the typical actions we often hear about, they started by cleaning up their lives. Some people choose to clean from the inside out, which means organizing the clutter in their thinking first, then start cleaning up the messy materials outside. But most people often start cleaning from the outside in. They want to rearrange the outside furniture to send a message to their brain that it's time for a new, more meaningful adaptation. And usually, choosing to act from the outside in, that is, through changing actions to influence thinking, always achieves the most positive and acceptable results. Because once we adapt to the minimalist living environment on the outside, we will easily accept and approach change on the inside. In short, the core of this action is aimed at a single goal. That's eliminated things that are considered redundant or toxic to our physical and mental health. There will always be thousands of debates taking place around us every day, no matter what environment we are in or what social issue we are facing. As long as we are still in the circle of the community, it means we always have to prepare ourselves mentally to face any ideas that are different from our own. Although we have the same idea of contributing to the development of the community, each of us will likely have different ways of doing things during that process. Some people promote the use of solar energy, others who propose focusing on recycling waste, and there is no shortage of opinions on expanding tree planting to create forests. I see many debates taking place just to protect someone's point of view against a certain solution. They are ready to attack arguments that contradict them. Then backup plans or certain B, C, and D ideas are just an unnecessary complication in their eyes. They aim straight at planner and execute it, because for them, that is the simplest way to avoid wasting time and not wasting energy. Concerns or analyses about possible risks when applying that method are not worth mentioning. They may or may not reject it harshly. But for a half-hearted understandings and seeing it as the truth of simple thinking, it is very possible they will condemn our way of thinking, and they will tend to force us to accept and practice the way they see it. It is difficult for us to completely avoid those who like to borrow simple thinking to manipulate our psychology. They are ready to condemn and suppress our wonderful creative ability. Therefore, when faced with such situations, we definitely have to keep ourselves mentally alert to avoid losing our temper and falling into their trap. We don't have to prove our point to people who don't even understand how limited their premise is. Because for us, what we want is a plan that has the least possible risks. But for them, First, they must be absolutely right. Then, if there is a risk, there is no shortage of reasons for them to fight back. We agree that debate is the premise for all development, but we also need to clearly identify the type of person in front of us to avoid feeling uncomfortable or worse, creating doubts about ourselves, my opinion. But once mistaken doubt is born, it may be accompanied by wrong aspiration. For example, I long for a simple life. The turns in our thinking are not convincing enough to show that we are not living a simple life. We can understand the simplicity here, as we have eliminated the confusion in our minds and persevered on the ideal path we have chosen. Simply put, any distractions, disturbances, or turns on the road will not affect our path. In his autobiography, The Story of My Experiences with Truth, the late Indian leader Mahatma Gandhi, who led the country's fight for independence from the British colonialists, wrote that minimalism paves the way for freedom and self-reliance. For him, simplicity, or the minimalist lifestyle, opens up to a broader perspective that we should not put our own desires first, but our responsibility to others. Our journey may be full of mistakes and challenges, but walking on the path to find the eternal light in our hearts is considered a choice that cannot be more perfect, no matter what names or definitions we call it. We should confidently continue on the ideal path we have chosen. That is the noblest meaning of the so-called simplicity.